just pressed the live button and it says that we are now live. I'm gonna put it up on my phone.
I'm gonna try to lean this against something.
Okay. So I have it on my phone so I can see when people enter the chat and as they're writing. So we'll give it a moment because people may be still getting on. How was your day?
It was great. I had a really good day. I have an ice cube in my mouth. I took a huge sip of water.
That's funny.
I talked a lot at school, so I need my water. But my day was good. We're still in school until June 26th. So it's been a good week, though, because this is our final week with students, and then we have a week and a half of exams. So, yeah.
Are those like the county's assessments, or do you have to come?
They're New York State exams. So our school is a 712 school, and it's mostly high school regents exams, and there's some junior high exams for kids. So the first couple of days are junior high exams, and then after that it's regents exams, which are high stakes for the kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Term high stakes. It's almost like it's of life and death, you know?
I know.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So my students are doing well. They are doing final exam presentations all week, and it's fun.
Well, that's good. I can only imagine working till the end of June.
I know. We start late, though, so we don't start until after Labor Day in September. So we still have probably the same summer. It's just pushed back a month.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you're out of school.
Yes. My last day, I think it was either May 23rd or May 24th.
Nice.
So awesome. I think this is like the third week of summer break for me.
Oh my gosh.
I back until August 1st, and the students start August 14th.
Okay.
But that's the private school schedule. The public school calendar, I believe the teachers go back like July 20. Ooh, I don't want to. Yeah, they go back the third week of July, the teachers, and then the students come back the fourth week in July, which I believe was like the 27th. I think it just blows me away because when I was in school, I think we started either at the end of August or after Labor Day, because I remember we will always have time for the tax-free weekend. Like you go to school before tax-free weekend. But Georgia hasn't done tax-free for 3 now. So I don't know. But even when we did have tax-free, we were in school like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it hurt teachers, in my opinion, because, you know, you try to wait for that to get your back to school stuff so it won't cost as much. But you can't wait 2 weeks for tax weekend. So that was kind of Okay, so I'm pulling up the questions that I sent you yesterday.
Awesome.
And I believe we can go ahead and start. The great thing about this is once we exit out of the conversation, it'll be posted on my channel. So if somebody missed it or they late or they missed a piece, they can always look at it again. So I do like that. So we'll start by, I guess I'll do like a formal introduction. So hello.
Sounds good.
My name is Monet. I am Tick Life. That's Teach Inspired Change. And you can find that on Instagram, YouTube, and Teachers Pay Teachers. Today, I have the great privilege and opportunity to speak with Emily, who is known as Read It, Write It, Learn It. And I absolutely love that name because I love English. And so in a moment, she's going to introduce herself and tell us about what she teaches, how long she's been teaching, and any personal fun facts that she would like to share with us. So let's welcome Emily.
Thanks. I am so excited to be here because I have followed you for a while and I think your Instagram is super inspiring. And then I was catching up on your YouTube videos. And if I was a new teacher, I would definitely be subscribed because you had some great tips. I was watching the one with all the school supplies that you have to have, and I agree with every single one. Everything you recommended, I was like, yep, that's my favorite thing. Like the big Post-it boards. I love those. Love them. They're my favorite. I order like between 5 and 10 a year, and I always run out. I have to get more. But my name is Emily. I started Read It, Write It, Learn It 2 years ago. I've been teaching for 18 years. So this is my 18th year. I started right out of college, and I've just haven't left the classroom since. I have taught 7th grade for most of that time, but I've also taught high school, summer school. I did summer school for a long time. So I did 9th through 12th grade summer school. And I've done a transition program with 6th graders who are coming into 7th grade, just to help prepare them. And that was really fun. And it was a different angle. And then I taught my very first year of teaching. I taught 9th through 12th grade special education in a 12-1-1 classroom. So that was an interesting experience too. So I've had a lot of different experiences. I've also worked training other teachers. Like when New York State shifted to the Common Core standards, I worked with New York State training teachers in our district on how to meet the new standards. So that was really eye-opening for me because teaching teachers is so different than teaching students. So, but it's been fun. I love it. I have 3 kids of my own, and next year I will actually be my daughter's teacher.
Oh, that is going to be interesting.
It will. It's so funny because I get mixed reactions whenever I tell people that because it's either you're so lucky or really your daughter's going to hate that. But it's really common. I work in a small school, and a lot of teachers' kids go to in our district already. So it's kind of a common thing, and I'll just follow the path of my colleagues, and I won't embarrass her too much.
Hilarious. Well, the good thing is, in middle grades, you only have that group for like 45, 50 minutes. So it's not with you all day.
Yes. I only have her for English, and then she'll move on. A fun fact, though, my husband also teaches in the same district. He teaches 7th through 12th grade technology. So he will have her for a quarter of the school year. He has the 7th graders for like 8 weeks. So he'll also have her.
That is hilarious.
It's going to be a family affair.
That's awesome. My parents are teachers. Well, teachers. My dad did 28 years, and my mom just 4 weeks ago, she did 34 years.
Oh my gosh.
She just retired, and as soon as they retired, they went on a trip, and they were gone, and they just got back.
That's amazing.
They just got back Sunday. Yeah, she's definitely loving the retirement life, say, but
I can't imagine.
I never had them as a teacher. Like DeKalb County in Atlanta is huge. Yeah. So, they never sent me to their school, but they did send me to schools with their friends. So some of their friends have taught me, which was kind of weird too, because it's like, oh my God, don't tell my parents. But never did. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and let's get into the questions. The first one is, and I'm looking down because I don't know them verbatim.
Yeah.
The first one is, how did you know middle grades was for you?
Well, it's kind of interesting because my first year of teaching, I fell into this position where I was teaching high school special ed. I was teaching English, but it was a totally different experience. And my husband and I were moving to where we are now and searching for jobs. And I interviewed all over the place, and it was super competitive. There's a teacher shortage now in New York State, but when I was interviewing 18 years ago, there really wasn't. There would be hundreds of applicants for each position. So I was going to take whatever came my way. And the position that was open at my current school was 7th grade ELA. And I actually never pictured myself as a junior high teacher. I always pictured myself teaching Shakespeare and being a high school teacher. And after my first year, I fell in love with 7th grade. I absolutely love it. It was kind of like, I don't know, fate that I'm here in the middle grades. But I think middle grade kids, a lot of times we think they're so awkward, maybe behavior issues, things like that. But the middle grade, it is messy. Kids are awkward. They could be behavior problems, but more than anything, they still love their teachers and they still have this thirst for learning. And when we bring up issues in my classroom about justice and what's right and wrong, they are on it. So I just am very inspired by them all the time. And my students right now are presenting their final exam projects. And one of the things they have to reflect on what they learned during the school year. And one of the things we did this school year is we researched clothing factories around the world and how our clothes are made. And my students felt so strongly about just getting involved and being smarter about how they spend their money. And just they seem to care more and have more world awareness, because when you talk about justice in front of a junior high kid, they want to do what's right. And I think we can help facilitate that in our classroom. So I just love that about the junior high age group.
Yeah.
That they're so passionate.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are. I know.
They smell like Axe body spray, but they are awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know when I taught 6th grade about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
was it 3 years ago? I don't know. I taught 6th grade, and
Mm-hmm.
that 6th graders were very opinionated and they wanted
Yes.
their voices to be heard. And
Yeah.
my challenge was getting them to prove it. Like, you can't just say what you
Yes.
said and then act like it's a dead fact unless you can support it. And
Absolutely.
also, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Like, that was the thing with them. They would talk, but if you ask them
Mm-hmm.
what they were saying, they were kind of like hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely agree that with the upper grades, you really get to make real world connections with things that
Yeah.
are happening in politics, things that are happening in different cultures. Lower
Yep.
grades, you really don't deal with the globe. You deal
Yeah.
with 7 continents, but you don't really study their cultures or their.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get in upper grades, you definitely get to do that, and
Yeah.
that's what prepares citizens. Like, that's how we get the
Absolutely.
world that we want to see, when we don't just stick to the textbook, because God only knows when that was written.
Right.
We definitely make those real world connections and allow them to voice their opinion and teach them how to support it.
Yeah. That is I could not agree more, because one of our major focuses in ELA is teaching the students to find reliable sources, credible sources, and to support all of their opinions with evidence. That's such a real world skill, but it's also an ELA skill. So that's
Mhm.
something we can tap into. So
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely. So number 2, what advice would you have given yourself the first year in the classroom?
I would definitely tell my first year self to believe in myself a little bit more. And I mean, I'm thinking automatically about my first year teaching 7th grade ELA. When I taught outside my content area, it was such a messy year because I was teaching special ed. I wasn't trained in special ed. It was kind of this. It was really challenging place to be. But I would also tell myself that every one of those struggles that I faced, I was going to learn something from, and I was going to be a better teacher because of the lessons I learned from my students. And the first few years, there's so much trial and error, and that doesn't end. Teaching doesn't get easier. I'm in my 18th year. Every year, I still am going to be faced with new challenges, and you're always like learning on your feet. But I think I would give myself permission to make mistakes, learn from them, be a better teacher the next day. Because sometimes I think as a new teacher, you come in and you feel inadequate, or you feel like other people know the answers and they don't. We're all figuring it out. And that's why, as teachers, we really need to support each other. And I love Instagram, YouTube. I love that we have these larger forums where we can support each other. But definitely find some colleagues in your school that can work as just a sounding board, a little bit of a mental health break if you need that.
Yes.
Because I think those connections with other teachers are so important.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But definitely just to believe in yourself, because what you're doing when you love the kids and you're with the kids in mind, you can't do wrong. Just keep the kids in mind, do your best for them, and you're on the right track, even if it doesn't feel like it some days.
I think teaching is very much a on the job training type of
Yeah.
situation. Really, because even if you had a great year 1 year, once you get those new bodies and you're learning their abilities, it's almost like going back to the starting board, you know?
Yes. Which
So
is what's nice about it. I love the fresh start that we get in the beginning of the school year, but 18 years in, I can say that this year has been one of my easiest. The last year was one of my hardest. And it just works that way sometimes. So sometimes you just have to be willing to take it day by day and to keep reflecting and learning from what's happening in your classroom, because you will get better and you do get stronger as a teacher, and you learn different things that work with kids, and you definitely learn new techniques. But what we're learning is all different because it really does depend on our kids.
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
agree. Um, I was going to say, when you said allow yourself to, you know, not have it all together.
Yeah.
I think a lot of new teachers, they feel like from the gate they have something to prove. And
Yeah.
honestly, in today's classroom, that's not too far from the truth, because people, administrations and districts, they expect to see results, you know?
Yes.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
pressure can be unrealistic. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to really stay true to yourself. And as long as you know that you're doing the best you can do with what you have, that should be like your piece. I
Yes.
remember the first year, the first grading, the first 9 weeks, I talked about how the grades crashed in one of my videos, but now
Yes, I saw that.
weren't great. Like, I had kids that were literally struggling, and I couldn't
Yeah.
understand why. And me being who I was, I put zeros, like
Yeah.
they turn it in or they didn't do well on it, and they put zeros, and their averages just dropped. And I was like, oh my God, so
Mm-hmm.
many people failing. They don't get it. What am I doing? I was bawling. And my grade teacher came in and she was like, what happened? Did somebody die? And I was like, no, they're failing and I don't know how to help them. That
Right.
is like, I'll never get it. But it taught me a lot.
Yes.
I eventually learned, like, that's okay. Like, that's just the reality right now. Yeah, you got to learn how to teach these standards a little bit better, but you know,
Yeah.
it's such a like trial and error. But in that, you grow. When you
Yes.
fail, there's growth there.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what's funny? We tell our kids that all the time, but we have to believe it for ourselves. We
Yeah.
absolutely have to believe that for ourselves.
Right. Okay. So, third question, which we kind of just got off of, what was your biggest challenge and how did you improve to make it a strength?
Um, my biggest challenge was probably last year. Um, and my biggest challenge is when we don't have the resources to provide for our kids. Oh my gosh, my son is knocking on the window. That's my Hi. I put my daughter in charge. So yeah, happy live. I swear we let him in the house. Okay, I'm gonna walk because he's knocking on the door. Hold on. But my biggest challenge is when I don't have the resources to provide for my students. I think it's so hard because we don't have that control as a teacher. I have to call. I'm going outside my house right now and calling my 5-year-old in. Cam, come on in. He's in kindergarten, so.
Oh.
But last year I just felt like there were certain needs that my kids had that as a district we couldn't meet, and it was really challenging to experience that as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Really challenging because I felt like I was limited. And so we just got creative. We worked with what we had, and we made it work, and everybody still learned and grew. But there were times during the school year where it was very frustrating. Like, I shut the door to my classroom and cried my eyes out. So it was tough because sometimes the limits are beyond us.
Yeah.
So my advice there is to advocate, and don't be afraid to advocate for your kids. But it's easier to say because I'm in my district. I've been in my district for so long. I have tenure. I have that protection, and I'm in a state where there's unions and stuff. But it got a little dicey for a little while because I had to advocate, and I don't know. It was just challenging. But I'm glad that I did advocate. I don't regret that, because I'll always advocate for kids who need us to stand up for them.
Yes.
So yeah.
And that's so true. I know I've had to learn how I don't know. I think I've had to learn what battles to fight. Like, everything
Absolutely.
doesn't have to always go as high to the principal. Some things maybe as a grade level we can collaborate on and try to fix ourselves. I know we had a resource issue, and I was teaching in the county before, and we just came out of our pocket. Like, we bought the subscription, but we split it 4 ways, and that made it a little bit more affordable. But then there are some things, I know for me, one year IEPs drove me crazy, and I did not have the support I needed. And a lot of my parents weren't knowledgeable of what an IEP was, what could they do, what rights did they have, what rights did the children have. That is such a legally binding document. And, you know, the accommodations, are the accommodations realistic? Because once you start as a teacher, you have to meet those accommodations.
Yeah.
It was just such a whirlwind. And I remember I had to speak up about it. We were getting blamed. Like, it was like the teachers, y'all are not doing what y'all supposed to be doing. And we're like, well, wait a minute. Like, did you train all of us on it? You know, how do we write it? What type of language do you want? What type of skills do you want? What type of resources do we document? Like, it was just like a tornado, and people were fingers, because some parents, you know, the ones that did know what the IEP was and the rights and things, they were very aggressive.
Yeah. So I would just say that I agree. You have to know when it's time to put that energy in and to advocate. And then, as much as you can, handle situations in your classroom. But when you need to, sometimes you will have to speak up. I think that's a part of our career that we're not always prepared for. Just because you just have to be very strong and believe in yourself, believe in your students, and don't underestimate yourself.
Right. So. And I'll just say one thing that I learned later, like my 3rd year, was when you come with a problem, come with a solution. And that makes the conversation feel a little bit better, because it's not like, all blame, you know, all problems. So that definitely makes administrators feel better, because a lot of they don't know what the solution is. So you can say, this is a problem, and this is some things that will work, and this is how much they cost, and this is the research that says it's effective. When you got all your needs together, it makes it smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. I think I lost it. Great conversation, by the way.
It is a good conversation.
Okay, so the 4th one is, how can new teachers use their summer time wisely?
There's a mix of things. The number one thing is to take time to really decompress and relax. You really do need that time to step away from school and realize that you're a human again, and just lay in the sun, read some books, be outside, and just find yourself again, because the school year is so nonstop that as human beings, we just need that chance to just not be at school and not think about our students. And that's okay. Give yourself permission to take that time because I think it's essential. I usually start thinking about school a little bit before it starts. It's interesting because it's changed depending on my position, because for a long, I always had to work during the summer. So it was either teaching summer school. So when I was teaching summer school, I would have a week and a half before it started. And that's when I would just I wouldn't even step foot in the school building. I would completely step away. And then when I went back for summer school, I would teach for whatever hours it was. And then I did try to get some stuff done in my classroom so I would be ready for the next school year. And when you are able to do some things for your classroom for the next year, it makes teaching easier during the school year.
Yeah.
Last year, I finally put finishing touches and put together a full year, my curriculum, and mapped out my whole year. And it made it so I didn't have to plan right now. Do you guys see a little hand right here?
Yes. That's hilarious.
Come here. You can say hi. He's going to be shy. So, I put together my year-long curriculum. I planned it out. I had things mapped out, and it was honestly years in the making because I would teach things and I try to, as I go, get things as I'm teaching during the school year, do things for myself the next year to make my life easier. So there's a couple things I do. I always use PowerPoints or Google Slides, and I put learning targets on my board every single day to start class. And then I usually have a couple slides that like guide us through our lesson, just like little prompts for my students so they know what to do, what materials to take out. And I made some of those as I went through the school year. And then over the summer, I just finalize things and put it into a calendar. Like this day we're doing this lesson, and map things out so that this year was so much easier. And I was so thankful that I did that work because it made this year so I didn't have to focus on planning. I could focus on grading, which as a secondary ELA teacher is overwhelming. And I need to use every second at school that I can to get that done. And relationships with my kids, because those are having good relationships with your students is one of the most important things you can do. It opens doors to learning, and it also is the best classroom management strategy ever, because if you have good relationships, kids are less likely to misbehave in your class.
True. That's very true. Great answer. I do see the Mrs. CJ, and she has a question below. So once I run through, because we're thinking about 4 more questions of the default questions, but and it has some Instagram ones on here too.
Awesome.
But I am being mindful of time. You know, I try to honor every time. Okay, so and I just got to yours, so that's great. So on Instagram, the Mrs. CJ asked, besides an about me intro letter, what other written parent communication or correspondence could be prepared ahead of the school year?
I always give my parents a syllabus, just letting them know the books that we'll be reading as a whole class, any literature circle books we're going to be reading. I let them know we do a lot of independent reading. So I put together a short syllabus. It's not incredibly detailed. It's more like a bullet list. These are the things we're going to be studying and the major topics we're going to cover. These are the expectations I have for the class. I make sure to put that most often the homework for 7th grade ELA will be 20 minutes of reading a night. And I actually have my parents sign this little contract that I don't even get back. I tell them to hang it on their fridge, to turn off electronics and TV for 20 minutes a night so kids can read, and to try to create a quiet space, because I notice that some of my kids who struggle with the 20 minutes of reading a night, they might not have their own bedroom at home. They might not have a place. There might be lots of kids in the family and it's loud and there's not a quiet spot for them to read. We sometimes can easily forget how challenging it is for some of our kids to have 20 minutes to read a night. So I try to get my parents on board with that before the school year even starts. And then I use standards-based grading. So I give them all the information about standards-based grading and how my grading scale works. So they know exactly how their son or daughter is being graded. They know what my expectations are, and they know what for the most part, we're going to be doing throughout the school year.
Mm-hmm.
It just helps to start with that.
Yeah.
More than, and actually I have more info about our class than I do about me. So, I mean,
Yes.
I introduce myself when I meet them.
Okay. And then the upbeat creative teacher on Instagram, she would like to know, how do you not become overwhelmed? She says she feels a bit overwhelmed with trying to prepare all the things on her checklist.
Yes. So number one, just know you're not alone, because I do feel overwhelmed quite often. And I've gotten a lot better with that because I've learned to let things go. And I think now that I'm a mom of 3 kids and they are very heavily involved in sports. Actually, at 6:00 tonight, we have a lacrosse dinner. And yesterday we had a playoff baseball game. And this weekend we are at sports all the time. And if anything, it makes it so I have to manage my time. I also have learned to let go of things that I used to try to control. So with grading papers, for example, I give myself permission to take time to get them back to my kids. They don't need them the next day all the time. I try to do the best I can, and I always want them to have fast feedback. But if it takes me a while, that's okay. And if there's days where I don't have things carefully, like I said, I like to plan things out. With planning, I'm very type A, I guess. And I just like to have my stuff planned ahead of time because I think that's a classroom management thing too. But I've learned to let go of the things that I'm not going to cross off my to-do list. I think as a teacher, you have to realize you're always going to have a list. It's not a profession where you're going to cross the things off and have, oh, I'm all done, I can sit back and just have a cup of coffee. That just doesn't exist.
Right.
We're always going to have a to-do list so we can every single day. I think it's important to have a planner. I'm a planner person for sure. And I have a list and I cross stuff off, and just crossing 1 or 2 things off makes me happy.
Definitely.
So.
Okay, so I'm going to jump onto the questions I have in the feed. And this is, again, the Mrs. CJ. Any tips on teaching technical writing? I teach high school courses in education and training. My students struggle with drafting an email, voicing their opinion in a discussion thread, writing instructions for a learning activity, and using and establishing a professional voice. Where should we start?
I would start with as many mentor texts as she can possibly find, because one of the things that's really important for our kids is to teach them that different writings have a different purpose. There's different audiences, and technical writing has a very specific audience, and usually it's a professional audience. So your writing has to be very clear, concise, and depending on what professional type of technical writing she's doing, definitely mentor text. I would just spread them out around my classroom and have the kids examine the mentor text and write a list of qualities of that text, and then even break it down to sentences and try to mimic the professional author style. That's my approach for every writing piece we do, is to have a mentor text, have the students really break it down, almost like a dissection. Like, what are the pieces? What are the parts? What is the language like? And create a list of qualities in groups, then as a whole class, and then try to mimic that style in their own writing. So I always start with mentor text with writing. Yeah, I think mentor texts are such a resource for us. My kids just wrote narratives, and we started by looking at novels and breaking down how different authors wrote. And it was so helpful. My kids' writing was so much stronger because they were learning from authors.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and for anybody else watching, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. I'm just going to jump on to this, but 2 questions. How do you deal with difficult students, and do you have consequences for bad behavior or non-productive students?
Yeah. Most of the classroom management type stuff I do is preventative. I think, like I said, I know that after 18 years, relationships are a priority in my classroom. And the best thing you can do as a teacher is build relationships with your kids. And the toughest kids are the kids who need us the most. I've never had a kid misbehave in my classroom who didn't have a story that really deserved to be heard, listened to. I think the best thing we can do is really listen to our kids and try to talk to them. So I had a kid in my class just last week, and I could tell he was looking to get into trouble, and something was going on. Like there was something going on at home. There was something going on. Something happened to him that day. I just could tell. And I talked to him before class started, before he had an opportunity, because he was looking, I could see him looking around, looking for an opportunity to get kicked out, get in trouble, something.
Yeah.
And so I just killed him with kindness. And that's usually my strategy. I do have consequences. If a kid really is misbehaving and there's something that's taking away, I have a goal every day in my classroom for my students. And if a student is taking away from that goal and making it impossible to reach that goal, my last resort is to send the student out of class. But I try to keep my kids in my room as much as possible, because sometimes kids want to be sent out if they're really struggling. And so I keep them with me. But more than anything, I want them there so they can learn. And like I said, because I want them to trust me and know that I love them, I care about them. So that's my number one priority. And I think if you can build relationships with your students, find what they're interested in, and then find little ways to let them know that you're interested in them. So I have a student who's really struggled this school year, and I found a book that I knew that student would love because it was related to a topic that student was interested in, and I just slipped it on that student's desk. And it was like their mind was blown that I noticed that they were interested in this topic. So anytime you can show your kids some love, some interest in their life, I think that's the best strategy for classroom management. So in the past, I've had more formal. First, I'll talk to you by your desk. Second, I'll move your seat. Third, we'll have a talk in the hallway. Fourth, I'll send you out. But I've made that less and less formal through the years because I just find that it's really all about relationships. And I don't need to have this like step-by-step procedure necessarily, because I just try to get to know my students as best as I can.
Definitely. And now, the thing I would add to that is know yourself, because sometimes we can become so frustrated, especially if they're a chronic misbehaved student, or they're just, depending on what they're doing, it might be like a trigger for you.
Yeah. Right.
So be really mindful of yourself and always stay calm, cool, and collected. Because the minute you fly left, now the class is like, oh my God, you see Miss So-and-so? It'll go quick. So be mindful of what space are you in.
Absolutely. And I've actually given myself a little time out before, just because I think staying calm is huge, because if we get escalated, the kids get escalated, and it's best to just stay calm. And it's not healthy for us to be in a classroom where we're feeling angry and frustrated. So it's okay to say, hold on a second, I need a break. And to step back and model that. You're modeling it for your kids. Sometimes you need to step away as best you can.
Definitely. So the last question of tonight, because I know you have some things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I am big on honoring time. What would you say to a new teacher who is not confident entering the classroom?
Who's not confident entering the classroom? My best piece of advice for new teachers, if you're stepping into a classroom for the first time, you might feel that way, but I don't know. I guess reflect on all of the expertise you do have that you learned. Your college classes really do prepare you. You have the knowledge to share. You're entering the profession probably because it's something you've wanted to enter and you're passionate about. So just believe in yourself and know that you can do this. And if if you have a bad day, there's other teachers there to help you. So I think new teachers, my best advice is to step into your classroom, ease yourself into the school year. Make sure you know, I remember my first year teaching in my current district, and I spent some time meeting with one of the special education teachers who worked with some of my students. And I was teaching regular ed, but it was a push-in class. So I worked with her and just got to know from her point of view the student population, got to know kind of like the culture of the school, because every school is different. Every grade, every group of kids that comes up, they have a different personality as a whole entire grade.
Yeah.
So I talked to her a lot and just got a feel for the school, the procedures, all those different things. And then I guess I just did some prep for a curriculum, and I planned out like the first couple of weeks, and then I just dove in. Know that you're just going to have to dive in, and that it will work out and you'll be okay.
Definitely. So CJ did ask one more question. Do you need to get off? Then you got to get off somewhere at 6.
Oh, I can do another question.
Okay, so she said, a question for both of you. Do you see yourself working outside the classroom in the future? And if so, what are your plans?
I have actually had this conversation with several of my friends when we just talk about our futures and different things. And especially now, my Teachers Pay Teachers and my blog have turned into a full-time second job. I focus mostly on my Teachers Pay Teachers during the summer. So I set hours for myself. I wake up super early, so I'm up before my kids, and I work half days mostly, so I can have time with them. But I don't see myself leaving the classroom, because I just had a meeting with my principal, and my happy place is in my room with my kids. Like I said, I just find kids are so passionate about life. Like, I sometimes get bogged down by political situations, by the news, by different things happening in our world. And I walk into my classroom, and my kids are these amazing human beings that I just see. Like, I'm going to quote Whitney Houston and be like, the children are our future, but they really are.
Yeah.
Like, I just see what potential we have and what the future looks like. And I feel like it looks bright. Yes. Because my kids are pretty amazing human beings, and I'm just excited to see where they go. And now that I've been teaching for so long, I was just in the grocery store the other day, and I heard somebody call my name from the end of the aisle, and it was a student from my first year of teaching, and he needed to know what kind of his baby had some like digestive issues or something, and he was like, what kind of medicine do I buy? He just got married, he has a baby. So my first year of students, they were 12 when I taught them, they are almost 30, so he's 29, I think. But I saw him, and he was like, he has this brand new baby at home, and he was asking me what kind of medicine to get, and it was just the cutest thing in the world. And I was like, this is what it means to be successful as a teacher, to raise these human beings who are going to grow up and start their own families, and we really do shape the future. I know it sounds so cliche, but what we do matters. And it's so easy to get caught up in different situations in your classroom or with administration, or when you're frustrated when you don't have the resources that you need. But we continue to do the best that we can despite all the noise outside of our classrooms. We close the door, we sit with our kids, we love them with our whole hearts, we share the best curriculum that we can share to teach them to care about the world, to care about other people, to be a good citizen. And it matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. We are world changers. Like, the world is literally inside of our classrooms.
Yeah.
I know for me, I thought about, okay, so I never want to be like a assistant principal, superintendent, none of that. I don't want any of that. But I did entertain being a curriculum coach, just because I love dissecting standards, coming up with strategies, coming up with lessons, things of that nature. Like, that really speaks to me. But I could never leave kids. Like, I got in it for them. And so the thought of not actually working with kids just kind of blew me away. So then I was like, well, I'll just be a reading specialist. And then that way I can still develop curriculum to a sense, but I'll work with small groups throughout the day inside of a building. So
Right.
now this summer has taught me that I can be a classroom teacher, I can mentor
Mhm.
other teachers, and I can create resources that I don't even know where they're being used. You know, the
Yeah.
flyers are
Yes.
from some of everywhere, and it's just been so great.
That's how I feel.
With my business that I started in December is doing great, and now with the whole mentoring teachers and personalizing and customizing resources for them and getting to know them and their stories and their visions, it's just awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
it really is the best of both worlds. I feel the same exact way.
yeah, so I don't want to leave I can't leave the classroom. Like it
Yeah.
just I don't want to do that. Like
Yeah. Yeah. But
really,
I have to say, I had one of my really close friends. He was an amazing teacher, and he went into administration. And his theory was, in a classroom, I can influence this many kids' lives. As an administrator, I influence the teachers who influence the kids' lives. And he's an amazing administrator. So I think you have to follow your own path and see what your passions are. And there are so many different ways to impact kids and be a part of education. And that's something I've really seen through the past few years. My passion definitely is in the classroom because I'm like you. I like creating curriculum. I love it's almost like artwork. And I know you're super creative, and that's one of the things you enjoy doing. And I feel the same way. But it's really fun to see it play out. So I like to write the curriculum and develop it and really pick it apart and dissect it. But I also love seeing how it impacts my kids directly. Being able to share it with other teachers has been mind blowing, though. It's been such a cool experience because I did one escape room, and the escape room, I implemented it on Halloween, and all these other teachers were using it on Halloween as well. It was so much fun because I felt like I was with this huge community and we
yeah,
were all using this resource. It was just really fun. We shared ideas, we shared pictures, we shared reflections, and it's just, I love that we can all connect through social media. And I think that is only going to benefit our kids.
yes, definitely. It's all for the students. If you're a teacher that's not for students, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. You're gonna just eventually weed out because the check isn't gonna do it for you. The
No,
demand
it's that.
isn't gonna do it for you. You have to really be in it because you want
Yeah.
to change lives, help teachers, and inspire the next
Yeah.
generation and community.
And
So
I think that's one of the places I'm finding myself too is after being in this profession for a long time. You mentioned paycheck, and like it's a hard job. So I feel like I want to advocate and for our profession just as much.
mhm,
So I'm definitely here for the kids, but I definitely feel this desire to advocate for teachers, and our profession is pretty amazing, and I have such respect for what we all do in the classroom. And it's not cute. It's not a hobby. It's a profession, and I feel very passionate advocating for other teachers and what we do. I
yeah,
write to politicians all the time.
that's there's power in the pen. Like I
There is power in the pen.
believe that, and the great thing is the conversation has already started with so many of the walkouts and
Mm-hmm.
people going on strike. There are
Yes.
teacher shortages throughout the United States. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the message is coming across. We need to do something for the teachers. Um,
Absolutely.
just throw a program at everything. You can't just always put a check on everything. Even though the checks do help. Georgia governor just gave a 3,000 annual raise, but
Mm-hmm.
some counties are, I guess, in a way, electing not to give it.
Oh, geez.
It's weird. It's like your governor says you need to do this,
Yeah.
then the county is like, oh, we want to use that money for some
Mommy.
have good personal lives. They need to be able to pay their bills,
Yeah.
live good so that they can be in the classroom refreshed and focused. So we're not going to get on that. I definitely agree that we definitely need to continue to work on the narrative about the importance of teachers and investing in
Yes.
teachers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we had a great teachers circle. This is the first one, and I really enjoyed the conversation. I will be
Same with me.
watching it just because I think there are a lot of keys, especially the mentor takes. Now I know I need to look
Yeah.
for my classroom. So
Mm-hmm.
next week I actually have two teacher circles. One is with Smarty Styles.
Oh, I love her.
Her on the 18th.
Awesome.
And on the 19th, I have Rockin' Resources. Pam.
Oh, wow. Fun. I'm going to be tuning in.
And she's definitely going to speak a lot about curriculum and choosing the right curriculum for students and even creating the right type of resources for your students. So I'm very excited about that conversation myself. So I have two brilliant, beautiful teachers next week. And Emily, you're no exemption. You're beautiful inside and out. I was thinking about it earlier, just how beautiful your spirit is. And
thank you.
I'm just so grateful that you participated, and I can't wait to continue to like talk with you and work with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, because I admired your Instagram and followed you for a long time and always looked in your pictures. So I love what you're doing with the Teach Inspire Change. It's awesome. And your videos for new teachers. If I was a new teacher, I would have been tuning in for sure. And even being in it for a long time, like I said, I watched that school supply video, and most of those things are things I use every single year. And I don't know, I just I think it's awesome that you're sharing this information, because it's going to help so many teachers.
Thank you. And I can't wait for your YouTube channel. Like, I know it's coming.
Yeah.
You're going to work it in.
We'll see about that.
Film on the weekends.
Yeah, in all my free time, I'll start a YouTube.
Well, thank you. Have a great day. Tell your beautiful children.
You too.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.